let's move on to a new segment here. I am very excited about this. Fill in the blank. Okay, this feels like I'm getting my game show host on, which I've always wanted to do. So I'm going to say a sentence, and then I'm going to want you to fill in the sentence with a word, whatever word comes to mind. Now, I looked at these, Marcus, but I did not lock in my word because I wanted to just pour out of me, okay? And it will be something suitable for all audiences, I hope. But I'm going to start off with the obvious place, of course, which is Aaron Rodgers. So the first one here is Aaron Rodgers is a blank next year. It sounds dirty, actually, the way I'm saying it. But Aaron Rodgers is a what next year?
Back-to-back MVP. I think Rodgers is going to have a monster season next year. I think the Packers are going to do everything possible this offseason to bring him in talent, whether that's drafting receivers in the first couple rounds, signing guys, trading for them. I think they realize now that they messed up last year by drafting Jordan Love and A.J. Dillon with back-to-back picks. They're going to go get him weapons. And I have a feeling we're going to see Rodgers have one of these 50 touchdown years next season.
I'm going to just go Packer because, like, it's interesting the speculation of, I saw, Florio floating teams that could get him. And reading the Packers CEO today, like, come on. And even LaFleur, like this seems to be, like, everybody's upset. They've had some late postseason disappointments for sure. Mm-hmm. But, like, they would be out of their minds. Now, this point next season, maybe, right? I think that part's really interesting. At what point do you distance yourself from Rodgers, or is Love become an expendable asset? I'm with you. I was going to go with MVP because I think the guy's amazing. I think he proved it this year. I thought he played phenomenal.
Yes.
I mean, it's a really incredible, like, all-time effort for Nod, which is a shame because the guy was a monster and his offensive line didn't do a whole heck of a lot. In fact, a lot of his guys, frankly, didn't do a whole heck of a lot. When you look at the struggles that Jones had, I mean, this was a collective failure.
They lost David Bakhtiari a few weeks ago, so they didn't have their left tackle, so their offensive line was in shambles. Devontae Adams, we have already talked about him, did not have his best game. The rest of the weapons are just average. They've got to get better there next year.
All right, so next one. Okay, we'll stay current with playoff teams not hiring Bieniemy is. Now, Bieniemy, of course, is going to coach in the Super Bowl as the offensive coordinator. I'd say I'm a little bit surprised still that this is where we are, but so not hiring him. Marcus, what say you?
Not surprising. And I'm going to start by saying this. I think Eric Bieniemy deserves to be a head coach, but he actually has a couple things going against him. Number one, the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl, and this is the second year in a row the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl, and teams just don't want to wait this long into the offseason to hire their new head coach. So their team success is actually holding Bieniemy back because, again, teams don't want to wait that extra month before they can get their coach into the Senior Bowl and all the scouting stuff and free agencies. So that's hurting him. And then the Andy Reid, coaching tree has not been fantastic. And I think some people are seeing that kind of play out between Matt Nagy's had middling success, Pat Shurmur, Brad Childress. And I think when you get away from Andy Reid, a lot of these guys just struggle being creative, and they don't always get a Patrick Mahomes to work with. So, again, I believe Bieniemy deserves to be a head coach, but it's not all that surprising he doesn't have a job yet.
I'm going to say a little surprising. I'm not going to go shocked. When you have this kind of success, when you're able to help groom this kind of player, when that player endorses you publicly to the degree Patrick Mahomes has had, with the emphasis on offense right now in the sport, it's a little surprising. And you bring up great points. The timing, like I think this is a product of circumstance, and we're not in the interviews. Obviously, we don't know what's going on. I don't believe he's bombing or anything like that. I do think it's just a reality of where they are, maybe where some teams are. And I think that's okay for him, by the way. Like, this is fine. Like, he's going to have the opportunity to get a job.
He should be picky. Like, he shouldn't just settle for the Texans job or Eagles job. I mean, if they offered those jobs to him, maybe he takes them. But listen, most coaches only in the league get one shot. And I'm not tying my future to the Eagles or the Texans right now.
I actually, and if I were to redo this again, I would say not hiring Bieniemy is his gain. Yeah. Like, this offense is going to remain awesome. Okay. Like, there's going to be jobs out there, and I think he will be picky. So I don't necessarily, you get paid good money to coach Patrick Mahomes. This job can wait. You're absolutely right. If it doesn't work out these days, it's hard to get it again. So I think it's an okay situation for all. All right. DeShaun Watson will be a blank in 2021. Marcus, I'm going first here. Okay. I actually legitimately think it could be the Jets. Now, it should be the Texans, okay? But I think the more people that I talk to, and when you looked at the circumstances surrounding their specific quarterback position, not the Dolphins, I think the Jets have a legitimate shot at this thing. And I know there are reports that his first choice is New York and Miami. I don't buy so much into that. For as much of a laughing stock as my team is, I think they're actually in a unique situation with a coach that people like and a GM that seems to have at least a decent enough reputation where it's not going to scare people away. Again, this is the threshold for a sad Jets fan. So I really do think, and it's hopeful optimism, and you can see right through this, of course, you know me well. I think he's got a legitimate chance to go to the Jets, and please, God, I hope it happens. Please do this for me.
I would say that DeShaun Watson is a New York Jet. I would agree with you because I think things line up better for the Jets than they do the Dolphins. I still think the Dolphins want to see what they have in Tua. I don't think they've completely given up there. The Jets have a lot of draft capital coming up. They have Sam Darnold, who they could move for right now. They also have a higher pick, which is important because that means that you had the Texans that have the choice between a Zach Wilson and a Justin Fields if it comes down to that. I do think they are in pole position right now, and let's hope nothing changes that because Deshaun Watson in New York, Adam, would be
awesome.
So much fun.
Again, Francisco Lindor and Deshaun Watson in one offseason for me would be but Marcus, I know how my teams are. They'll find a way to blow it. What is the package though? So this is, I find really interesting, and I'd love to get your opinion because it starts with the number 2 pick. The Jets have 4 first-rounders in the next 2 years. So the Jets could actually do this without with still having some ammunition. But what is the ideal what's a realistic package? We've talked about this on the show already, I know.
Yeah, so before we get into the package, I do want to put this out there. And again, I'm not reporting this. This is just from people that I've talked to around the league.
Oh, yes.
That wherever Deshaun Watson goes, Will Fuller is going to follow in free agency. They love playing together. And so if you think of it that way, if I'm giving up the second pick in the draft, another first rounder that you're getting from Seattle this year, and then let's say another first rounder in the 2022 draft and some middle round picks, that probably at least gets you to the table and you're starting to have a discussion there.
Done.
If I'm the Jets, I'm fine. If I have to give up 3 first-round picks and a couple day 2, day 3 picks, I'm doing it because this is a franchise changer, and I think you're going to get a wide receiver that can be an absolute explosive option on the outside.
Plus, you'll get maybe a 2, maybe a 3 back for Darnold. So I mean, it's not, again, you're giving up on that.
And he might be in that trade as well. So that would factor
in
there as well.
It could. Yeah, no, but I'm in. All right. I have more excitement now. I'm like childish joy here. That
Denzel Mims and Will Fuller.
Yeah,
and Crowder. That's not bad. You can work with that.
I can. Draft me Najee Harris at some point. Find a way to do that. I'm in. All right. Blank should sign Matt Stafford. I guess, Marcus, I'll kick it to you. I found the whole thing a little odd, the way that this is playing out publicly like this. Like, we're done. I feel like you kind of lose some leverage. It just feels strange. So, that being said, blank should sign Matt Stafford.
Yeah, I think it's the Colts, and I think they're the overwhelming favorite right now because they have everything that Matt Stafford needs to win there. First and foremost, they've got the cap space. They've got the draft capital, so they can make a move for him. They've got an offensive line. Now, they need to find a left tackle with Anthony Costanzo retiring. But Frank Wright wants to throw the ball down the field. He couldn't do that with Phillip Rivers. Shout out Phillip Rivers, always a friend of the show.
Of course.
I just think in that offense with a young Michael Pittman, Paris Campbell, who will be coming back next year, this opens up that entire offense. I think the Colts would become instantly the favorites in that AFC South and maybe one of the favorites in the AFC. So I think that's where Stafford needs to land.
Same here. I'd love it too because Jonathan Taylor looks like if he can not fumble is going to be a star. You've got really fun pieces. You still have a good O-line. You have a defense that showed some flashes too. I'm curious how Matt Stafford's going to age toward the end of his career because he's taking some punishment. This is a guy though that despite his mileage still has a lot left, I think. And for him, I hope this happens. Like I'd love to see him in a good stable environment so we can kind of really evaluate and see the full Stafford potential. You know what I mean?
And I actually think he's going to age well behind a good offensive line because his arm is just so talented. He doesn't have to always make plays outside the pocket. Go to the Indianapolis Colts, probably extend your prime by another 3 or 4 years, and you are on a playoff contender year in and year out.
Okay, real quick. What do you think the trade packages looks like here? Because I saw some wild blank guesses because it's hard. This is a quarterback who's played a lot. So I saw people say multiple first. I'd have a hard time believing that. So where does it start here?
Well, I guess we need to go back and look at some other quarterback trades over the last couple of years. We saw the Raiders give up a first-round pick for a kind of washed-up Carson Palmer, who retired. We saw Jay Cutler go for 2 first-round picks, during the middle of his career. We saw Sam Bradford get traded twice for a first-round pick. I think Stafford is more talented than all those guys. So I would say a one and something else significant, whether that's a day 2 pick, maybe it's a player, maybe it's an offensive lineman. But I think a first-round pick at the very minimum is what you need to have the conversation before trading for Stafford.
And it would be worth it at that. When you actually think about it, you're right. The value of the quarterback does hike that up tremendously. And last but certainly not least, Campbell's presser was blank.
Over the top. It felt like a wrestling promo, right? I thought he was going to rip his shirt off and start going into the ring or something. I mean, it's who Dan Campbell is. I remember his time with the Cowboys. He was the same kind of fiery guy as a player. I'm not convinced, Adam, that it's going to translate into wins. At the game day, I wrote about all the head coaching hires. This was my least favorite by far. I just don't get it.
I would say meat-headed likeness personified. That is such this aging, dated football mentality, right? And I want him to do well. I do not wish bad on any coach. Coaching is very hard, and he will be paid millions of dollars. But when we talk about Bieniemy looking for a job and true offensive genius, and that is the initial response, it's hard to wrap your head around. I don't know how that plays well in interviews unless you're interviewing with people that are just largely meatheads or incompetent. I'm sorry, I said I wanted to do well, but I'm baffled by this.
Who was doing the interviews? Wasn't it Chris Spielman, the former linebacker?
Of course. I mean,
so that makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah, they got an Oklahoma Joe going in the hallway or something. I mean, but I think it'll be funny and he'll be hilarious. I mean, from a soundbite perspective, this is tremendous content. But if you're a player on that team, you got to be seeing this and just being like, oh God, how much hitting are we going to do? You start to do the math of what this translates to. It's not great.
And especially now that your franchise quarterback is leaving, Kenny Golladay, your star receiver, is probably leaving in free agency.
Yes.
And some dark days ahead for Detroit fans. They're used to it though. So it's nothing surprising.
Yeah. It'll feel normal. The responses from Detroit fans on Twitter for this was unbelievable, even by their very elevated standards.